So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Labour not getting rid of the two-child cap and also not raising taxes on the rich.
That overall you have your approach right. I mean, Gordon Brown, who I know you admire, former Labour Chancellor, former Prime Minister, he said in terms that the two-child benefit cap, where big families can't get extra entitlement to benefits, should go. He's spoken very passionately about child poverty. If you win, is your and Keir Starmer's government going to be a Labour government that chooses not to help those thousands of families in grinding poverty?
I would want to see the same question put to the Conservative Party about the two-child cap. I reckon I know what the answer would be about like work and stuff. But you would think, Gordon Brown being a person who worked as the Chancellor when the economy was doing well, he would know if the country could or could not afford to get rid of the two-child cap. So arguing about affordability, would Gordon Brown really put us in that position or put the party in that position? I don't think so.
The Labour Party in government will reduce child poverty. We've set out just this weekend.
Reducing it is not enough. Honestly, the eradication of child poverty. No child should grow up poor. None of them. Not through government decisions like this, especially if you want equality of opportunity.
For example, the New Deal for working people.
Yeah, that New Deal's bogus. We've covered that. It's got, the unions have said it's got more holes in it than Swiss cheese. But okay, go off.
To ban exploitative zero-hour contracts.
What are exploitative 0 hours contracts? I thought the pledge was to ban 0 hours contracts. How do you define what is exploitative and what isn't?
Ends the scourge of fire and rehire, to turn the minimum wage into a real living wage, to give dignity to people, particularly in low-paid and insecure work. Those are just some ways in which we are going to begin to tackle child poverty.
But it's interesting you mentioned that, because Gordon Brown, who knows about trying to add the sums up, and as the Labour Chancellor going into 1997, hoping to move into number 11, he said he wouldn't raise income tax. He said he would stick to Tory spending plans, and yet now he's saying you've got it wrong on the two-child benefit cap.
No, Gordon Brown, absolutely. Wherever you think of him, there are misgivings. I have a lot of misgivings around the Iraq War and stuff, but I'm glad at least he's trying to push on two-child poverty. So he's smoking the Reeves pack because he's saying we should do something about this. And you've got Rachel Reeves, who is going to be the Chancellor potentially if Labour win, saying, nah, we're not going to do that.
We're not going to be able to put everything right that the Conservatives have done straight away. And our priority is reducing those NHS waiting lists, because we've got people...
So your priority is not eradicating child poverty? Okay.
In some cases, waiting for more than a year, in some cases, more than 2 years for procedures.
And then that is bad. That is something that definitely needs addressing. But the argument you can't deal with that and deal with child poverty by getting rid of the two-child cap, given that that's the most effective way. I don't care what people at Morehouse say about, Labour want to get rid of universal credit. They don't. From what I've seen, they want to reform it, wherever that means. So he's spinning that. Plus the fact that, that if they were serious about it, they would get rid of the two-child cap. They would.
So much that we...
Otherwise, you sound like a Conservative here. You talk about the burning injustice. That's what Theresa May talked about, child poverty and stuff, and do nothing about it.
Want to turn around, and we have to prioritise. Okay. And our priority would be those additional appointments in the NHS to cut those waiting lists, and for those additional teachers in our state schools to give every child...
Again, with the teachers thing, it's like 0.3% or something like that per school that they'll get. So it's not even, you wouldn't even get a whole teacher. You're not even getting half a teacher. So this is nonsense. Honestly, absolute nonsense. Especially since that money will go back into the economy as well, if you help eradicate child poverty. So this is her about talking about taxes.
Well, there's not going to be a return to austerity under a Labour government. Well,
and the irony is, there was a Conservative minister recently who said that they're going to cut more social spending. I think it was. They're going to cut something to do with government spending, but that's not austerity. Like, you can spin it any way you want, but we can see it. Keeping things like the two-child cap because you can't afford to get rid of it is definitely austerity.
Well, we had austerity for 5 years, and that is part of the reason why our economy and our public services are in a mess today. There is no spending review. The government haven't done a spending review, so there's no allocations for departments. I would have to do that if I become Chancellor in a few weeks' time, and I'll set out those plans.
But
under Labour, we have got
that spending in some areas.
We're not going to be bringing back austerity, but we have got that immediate injection of cash into our frontline public services. That's a down payment on the changes that we want to make. But in the end,
she knows she doesn't want to use the word austerity because it's a toxic word. That's why people hate it.
Have to grow the economy. We have to turn around this dire...
Can someone please ask them how you're going to grow the economy? Please ask them.
And we will move on, but this is an absolutely fundamental point. All sorts of economic experts, people like Paul Johnson, a very well-respected independent number cruncher, you look at the state of the books right now, the plans that have been set out imply very clearly that there will have to be cuts to some parts of public spending. And I'm hearing you not wanting to admit that, but you're also not ruling that out.
Well, we're in a very unusual situation where halfway through the year we have no spending plans for the next financial year, and that's because the government haven't done those plans. So I'll inherit a situation where there are no departmental allocations for any government department.
And so that gives you a lot more leeway to figure things out, especially when it comes to taxation and things like that. That gives you a lot more freedom to figure things out. But, you know, Labour saying no tax rises, no rise in income tax or national insurance if it wins the election. They've also ruled out a VAT tax rise, which, again, I don't like VAT much. I think it's a bit of a regressive tax anyways. But point being is, if you're saying you're not going to increase borrowing, and you're not saying you're going to cut departmental spending, despite the fact that the economy's not doing great, where are you going to find the money for it? Honestly, and I ask this question because I wouldn't care if they borrowed it. I really wouldn't. If that money's going to basic government spending, or in order for infrastructure projects or things that will grow the economy and actually have an impact on people's lives, I'm all for that. If you're going to give all the money to your friends, I'm against that. So it just depends on where the money is going. But point being is, she's saying we're not going to do more austerity, but somehow they're going to grow the economy and raise more money, and they don't explain how they're going to do that. It doesn't really make sense. But I just kind of just shake my head, honestly. I did see there was a Starmer clip where he was asked, I don't know if I've covered it already, but he basically was asked, like, if you could grow the economy, would you make it a priority to get rid of, child poverty, the 2-child cap? He goes, well, in an ideal world, I would. Is like, we're never in an ideal world, the interviewer was saying. And that's true, we are never in an ideal world. But it's never too late to do the right thing. Especially for people who had no say over the way the economy was run, played no factor in the crash and things like that, and you're punishing these kids for that because they can't vote. Honestly, it's just shocking to me. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.